tractor-driven harvester was designed that looked like this. Can you show the first slide?
Yes.
Jaturi. Now when you know the salt pan, it is a very hard crust and the laborers, they have to have a very hard time to remove this. So this was designed, which was lifted by hydraulic system of the tractor, and which will go deep 1, 2, 3, 4 inches, whatever depth you want, and it will move forward and scrape the salt and dump it back. Then you can have a transverse conveyor and you dump into a trolley. This was reasonably all right. I did this for some time. Then I realized, after doing this, of course simultaneously I was given another job which I will come a little later. But this harvester idea, I was sent to Tata Chemicals. They have designed one harvester at that time. But that was a huge thing to bring it from one pan to another. It was all impossible. So I thought that in our country this is not going to work. Because for making a mechanical salt harvester, you need huge salt pans. And you need a base on which the tractors and trucks will move. In our salt farms, neither tractor nor trucks will move unless there is a big salt crust. In other places, they don't harvest for 1 year or 2 years, and they form a huge crust, and that becomes the strong base. So they can do this. We cannot do this. So I abandoned this idea that this harvester is not going to work in India unless we have a huge salt pans and a huge crust. Then I was given another job because another group was working on reverse osmosis. Yes, 2 groups were working. One was working with Dr. Krishnaswamy Govindan, and another was Dr. Mehta. And Dr. Mehta was quite famous, and nobody would like to go and work with him because he was a very hard taskmaster. So I was sent there. I said, all right, because I was a very hard worker, so I immediately pleased him within no time, and I became his right hand. Now, Dr. Govindan also made the membranes. At that time, it was celluloacetate membrane. But he could not taste this membrane because you needed a very high pressure on the membrane to separate the waters. Now, the job was an engineering job to support the membrane and not a chemistry job. Chemistry job was done. How to support this membrane under several hundred pounds per square inch pressure. And that was the job, which I started working on it and designed the first membrane support system. Next. It looked like this. Now, it looks a very funny thing because as if it is going to have some thousands of kilogram pressure, but at that time it was not known that how much it will be required. So I designed a very, very strong thing that you can go up to a very high pressure also. And then we started, the first time we could see that the saline water and fresh water were separated through the membrane. And we tested the water. And you will be surprised, I was working on this time, even in my PhD work also. I calibrated my tongue in such a manner that I take the water and taste it and tell you it is 300 ppm, 200 ppm. And it will be exactly like that. That calibration was done. You know, you will be surprised that human systems are fantastic. When I was in IPCL, I came to know that there is a hydrocarbon, C1, C2, C3, etc. And human nose can distinguish the smell about 6,000 times different. Well, you need a gas chromatograph to do this. Human nose can do this. It is a fabulous thing. Similarly, human tongue can, if you calibrate it properly, you can do this. And I can challenge anybody that I can do this. So this was the first thing, and we first time measured. Everybody used to come and say, "Arey, khara pani, meetha pani," and it was something great. Then this was only one small membrane. Then how to do it bigger? Then it went on. Next. Then we make into a tubular system, what Shah described. Because the flat membranes were smaller and then you wanted large. And tubular system, then you have to continuously do this. Water drops that you are saving are the fresh water. Inside there is the saline water. And then I had to develop all these things because there was nothing available. And then the back pressure regulator was developed. That you need continuously pressure in the system. A pump will go on pumping. And we used to sit down, myself, Dr. Mehta, Kawa and all these guys were working with me, and we went on pumping with the hand. and fresh water was coming. That was the first time. Then we went on getting pumps and all sorts of things happened. Mechanical engineering came into picture. Then we made a bigger plant. Now, for making bigger plant, there are a lot of contrivances. These are the headers. Next. I will not go into great detail of this. But this plant was there. This is Dr. Kane. At that time, Anil Kane only, no doctor. And there are a lot of hair on my head. I look like this. So this was one module. And several such modules were stacked with a back pressure regulator, and we started working. Next. So this was a plant which was 5,000 gallons per day, which was built for the BSF, Border Security Force. One brigadier Irani came here under a great secrecy that our people are there in Kutch, Vigakot, border of Pakistan. There is saline water, but there is no water, and these people, my soldiers are there right day and night. They don't have drinking water. So I have to transport 110 kilometers in a tanker. If the Dushman comes and blows my one tanker, then these people have no water. So I want something, water there. So some instructions came from top, and Dr. Datta told me that let us design one plant. And I and Dr. Mehta started working, how do we do? And we made this first plant, 5,000 liters, 5,000 gallons per day. And this plant, when it was made, suddenly Indira Gandhi also came here. I don't know what was the function at that time, but she was not to visit the laboratory. But she came, I think it was spudding of the well. Aliabed spudding the well. So there was no designed route. And since there was no designed route, she cannot go anywhere without permission of the securities. But she said, no, I want to see. So she said, Doctor, what do you want to show me? This plant was ready. So Doctor said, let us go. So they both came running there, and I was immediately told to go and start the plant. So I started the plant. There was no photography or nothing, nobody was allowed there. So unfortunately, I shook hand with Indira Gandhi, etc., but those photographs are not there. But this happened. And then this plant, in a total secrecy, was shifted to Bhuj. I went there. And this started operating. And we filled up the tank in the end of the day. And those soldiers started drinking and taking baths and all. They were so happy, they were dancing. And then I was standing there, then one brigadier, Nadir Shah came, another fellow, chief of CISF, the BSF, Border Security Force. Then I didn't know that those soldiers, what sort of attitude they have. So everybody was saluting. I was just standing there. I said, who is this guy? So he said, he is the scientist who is, oh, then immediately he embraced me. And he said, yes, you have done a great job, this, that. I don't know how long this plant worked there, but this plant was shifted there and it worked. So that was the first thing which the institute got the laurel, that we helped the Border Security Force in such a desert area to have fresh water. So this was the RO system at that time. Then we also simultaneously started working for Spiral and this, and my younger brother was also working here, and he also made some spiral designs. Then he also left. And there was one Lele. No? Lele? Yeah. Both these guys are doing this. Now this is the RO system at that time we worked, which my friend and my colleague Shah told, because we were students also together in engineering college. And then he took over from me. As long as I was there, he was not there. When I left, he replaced me and took forward whatever I did, he did it further and took to higher heights. But then this job not only got me a PhD, we got 3 national awards, Bhatnagar Award, NRDC Award and Federation Award. And I was very happy that our group got these 3 awards. And all the 3 were Dr. Chandorikar, myself and Dr. Mehta. And we got these 3. And something happened about my PhD also. So my PhD thesis was sent to University of California for external examination. There was one Professor Mekuchan who had visited this laboratory also. And then it was sent to him. Incidentally, that poor fellow died. So University of California said, where do you send this? Because there is hardly anybody working on RO 50 years ago. So his colleague was working in Negev Research Institute, Israel, Professor Loeb. So they sent it to Professor Loeb. And I had said in my thesis that what Professor Loeb has said, he has done in only laboratory, I have done it into a industrial scale. So I thought this will say the old wine in new bottle, I will be thrown out. Again, 4 years I will not work. But he praised me like anything, that this boy has done fantastic job. I could not achieve whatever I wanted to, this fellow has done. And if he remains in the field of research, lot more is expected of him. But I did not remain in the field of research. That was fortunately, or unfortunately, what is, I don't know. But then I went away from this laboratory to salt research. I left and went to IPCL, Indian Petrochemicals. And then the rest of the story you know. So this is what used to happen at that time. Dr. Mehta and I and my colleagues were only 3 or 4 people, and there were no equipment, nothing, everything was from scratch we started. And producing pressure of 1,000 pounds per square inch was unthinkable at that time. And to have the equipment which will support the membrane against such a large pressure difference was unthinkable. And that was particularly my contribution, that I could do this. And then Govindan and other people went on doing some other electrodialysis, etc. And this was exclusively our group. When other Dr. Kawa and other so many fellows, Desai, so many people joined us, and then it became a big group. Some of the boys who were working at that time, casting membrane, etc., they are no more now. They must have, because I left the institute 42 years ago, so if at all they are there, they must have retired. Some Patel and all these guys, they are doing all this casting. So we got these patents also and the membrane awards also. Now, several things are happening. I used to go to salt works. I used to go to our salt farm, do everything there. Incidentally, I used to keep my eyes and ears open. Today even I know what happens when the water comes in from sea, how it goes on getting concentrated, what is separated first, what is separated second, at what degree Bohme, what is separated, how you go to 25 degree Bohme and then you start crystallizing. After 28 or 30 degree Bohme, then you again have mixed salt, and then again you have bittern and all sorts of things. I remember all these words, though it was not my subject, but I used to go there with my salt harvester, so every day I used to see this. There Dr. Mehta and other fellows are doing humidification, dehumidification, and such terrible words which I didn't understand at that time. They were so this is what Salt Research Institute was there at that time. And then we have seen many things, and all of you are here doing a wonderful job. We are now making biodiesels and whatnot. We have made catalysts, we have made so many other things we have made, and we have got a lot of laurels. And after that, so many people also have got awards also. And you will continue to get it. Now, I don't want to say and describe all these things in great detail. This is the last one, no? Yeah, I just wanted to show that these were the things at that time, first time it was done. I have few advices to my young friends, that whenever we do research or do anything in this life, recently I was invited to speak in the GEB Chintan Shibir. They think about several things, and I was invited to speak. And the subject given to me was the need of transparency and honesty in public life. It was a very terrible subject, but I thought, all right, I will speak. And I spoke for more than an hour. So I will give you some gist of what I said there, because it is relevant to everybody in day-to-day life. In jurisprudence, it is said that justice not only should be done, it must appear to have been done. Suppose a judge gives a judgment, 10 years rigorous imprisonment. Now it is only one sentence. But that judgment, to write 10 years rigorous imprisonment, he has to write 300 pages, that why he has given this judgment. Because the justice must appear also that it has been done. Not only it should be done, it must appear to have been done. Similar thing is with honesty. Not only you must be honest, you must appear to be honest. You know entire Ramayana. Sita was honest, everybody knew. But still to make her appear honest, the whole Ramayana took place. So making or appearing ourselves honest is very important. If you will remain honest, then automatically you need to be transparent. So the need of transparency and honesty are combined. And if you do this in all your life, even in scientific research, you will be far at ease than whatever you do. There will not be any confusion. People will not misunderstand you. Remain as transparent as possible, remain as honest as possible, and that should be our system. See, anything that you give a statement today, if it is an honest statement, you don't have to remember that. But if you fabricate that statement and give, then after 5 years somebody asks you, you have to remember what I said at that time. But if you have said the truth, you don't have to. So remember this. This should be the life motto, and people should do like this, you will not have any trouble whatsoever. People say that it is not possible to remain honest. It is absolute nonsense. In this 45 years of career, I have worked at the highest level, at the biggest institutions. I was at the helm of SR Steel, I was at the helm of Finolex, I was the Deputy Chief Executive of Reliance, I was the Vice Chancellor of a huge university. So many places I worked, and I have not found that it is difficult to remain honest. It is absolutely possible to remain honest. You will not repent for remaining honest. On the contrary, if you are not, there are problems. Another thing I want to tell you that anything that you do, you must first see scientific research that what is going to be the ultimate outcome, what are you looking for. If that ultimate outcome also is of no good, then don't do that work. Lot of people do go on doing this, take this molecule and that molecule and join it, and you produce some new molecule. They make a PhD thesis. But what is the use of that molecule? Unless you know that your result is going to do something and that is going to be ultimately something fantastic, don't waste your time. You must know this. This is the truth. People go on doing things, but without any actual purpose. Such research only they will make a lot of papers, which have no value. Even they will get a lot of pages, they have no value. Unless something happens which is going to become useful to the society or something useful to the knowledge to the society. It may not be otherwise physically useful, but knowledge-wise. Don't get into that. First find out what is the ultimate result. Now the last thing, I don't want to tell you more time, that I remember that this world is very competitive and ruthless if you don't remain competitive. I remember one African proverb. The proverb is something like this, that when the sun rises on the soil of Africa, a deer rises. And the deer will have to acquire the ability to run faster than the fastest of the lions, otherwise it will not survive. Similarly, when the sun rises on the soil of Africa, a lion also rises. And the lion also will have to acquire the ability to run faster than the fastest of the deers, otherwise the lion also will not survive. So whether you are lions or deers, the world is ruthless, it is highly competitive. Whatever you do must be in time, and you must survive. Survival of the fittest, what Darwin says 175 years ago, is still holding truth, that you will survive only if you are fit. And remaining fit is there in all sorts of walks of life. Remain fit, and that is why we will survive. I think this is enough. I don't want to say big lecture. I am a professional speaker, so I can go on speaking till evening. I have spoken more than 100 times internationally, so speaking is no problem for me, but today I don't think I should speak more than this. And thank you very much for inviting me here, and I'm grateful to